Hello everybody, Ample Thought here. Today I wanted to just go over, and thank you for joining me. I just wanted to go over a few things about a video I did probably about a year ago now, called Why We Should All Be Done with Politics. Probably why we should be all done with politics. I go over a few things that are pretty obvious to anybody who's been following politics at any point. The main things being the hypocrisy that goes on, the being against things, not for things, nepotism, cronyism, how some people criticize elections as not mattering because of the electoral college. And today I just wanted to go over the idea of promises kept by certain politicians. So we've all heard it at some point, people talking about promises kept by their leaders, their preferred president, their preferred party. And it's difficult to talk about things in the aggregate if you're not looking at the abstract of what a lot of these people are saying. And I say that when you're making political points on the campaign trail, when you're trying to promise things that you know you couldn't possibly keep up with, things that are out of your control, things that have no relevance to being the president, for example, or a senator or a congressperson, but specifically focusing on the presidents, I was just going to talk about on June 26, 1990, George Bush admitted that fixing what ailed and stalled the U.S. economy would require a number of measures, including tax revenue increases. The problem with that is that he said no new taxes. This is George Bush Sr., for those of you who call him Senior. Read my lips, no new taxes. So that was obviously something that he did not keep as a promise. But even before that, Wilson ran for re-election in 1916 on the slogan, "He kept us out of the war." Well, just 29 days after he was sworn into office, for his second term, he asked a joint session of Congress for a declaration of war against Germany. So that didn't really work out. Even before that, 1928, or correction, after that, the Hoover campaign, who Trump says he doesn't want to be like. He just doesn't want to be Hoover. Hoover campaign promised prosperity for everyone, promising a chicken in every pot and a car in every backyard to boot. What he actually did was, less than 8 months after he took office, was the stock market plunged and we went into a Great Depression. Something that he couldn't have seen coming for the most part. You can say it wasn't his fault for making that promise because the papers actually said that quote, not him specifically, except GOP-led groups back then were pumping these papers full of this rhetoric, and he stood by it. So there was that. 1932, 1940, running against Hoover, Roosevelt, said that the deficit spending and the employment needed to be increased. So running for an unprecedented term in 1940, FDR promised your boys are not going to be sent into any foreign wars. So two things. One, the New Deal policies did put the nation back to work, but they increased the deficit even more, which is something he said wasn't going to happen. After Pearl Harbor was bombed in 1941, Roosevelt obviously asked Congress to declare war on Japan, but he got elected on kind of the notion that nobody was going to be sent to any foreign wars. 1964, Johnson took office in 1963, and after the assassination of JFK, LBJ painted his opponent Barry Goldwater as a war hawk and promised, we're not going to send any boys, American boys, 9 or 10,000 miles away from home to do what Asian boys ought to be doing for themselves. That's what he was quoted as saying. The result was, obviously, he sent troops to Vietnam, and he pulled out of the 1968 race because he definitely would have lost to everybody's favorite president at the time, since then, Nixon. Nixon said he'd get out of Vietnam, but didn't. Some other things happened. Don't know if you guys know about that. And after he was kicked out of office, or left, resigned, because he was definitely going to be indicted for things that did not involve absolute power or absolute immunity, as some might say, he wasn't the one who took the troops out. Last troops left Vietnam in 1975. In 1976, Carter was saying that energy was going to be his biggest focus, and gas prices soared. There's a lot to learn there if you don't know about Carter's administration. He had an embargo, and the embargo killed the economy, specifically for energy. So he was voted out of office to make way for what became our first modern celebrity in the White House, Mr. Ronald Bedtime for Bonzo Reagan. Reagan said a lot of things, but what he was most criticized for was kind of being the origin of stagflation. We're hearing that term again now, but stagflation was kind of a new thing when you had huge unemployment and huge inflation going on at the same time. He increased the deficit by 186%, which he also said was never going to happen. And it may not sound like a lot now. 186,000 or 186% of a certain number isn't nearly as bad as either Obama or Bush Jr., as some of you call him, mission accomplished boy. But at the time, it seemed disastrous that the deficit increased by 186%. Oh, what innocent times back then. But maybe the worst part about all of that was this was kind of the end of compromise in the White House with Congress. For people like Newt Gingrich, he saw the writing on the wall that no compromises could be made. We are absolutely in factions now. There's no more good faith arguments. This is war. And if we want to stay in the White House, if we want to maintain power, if we want to push forward our agenda, we're not compromising anymore. So, that's about it that I wanted to talk about. I mean, people remember these presidents differently, but nothing can be changed about what they did not deliver. This has only increased, obviously, since the decade since Reagan, Obama. I mean, this is why people remember it differently. A lot of people on the left would say that Obama was a uniter, and he actually had more promises kept than many other presidents in the past, let's say, 30 years, and that his notions of ethical obligations were what pushed him forward from many subsections of the electorate, of the voting class, who believed in what he was saying, the hope and change that was promised. The difficulty with his administration was that he was a Democrat with a Republican Congress, completely Republican Congress, and there was a lot that didn't want to get done. I can't remember who it was, But many people, including Mitch McConnell, for example, would say we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that Obama is a one-term president, which they tried everything they absolutely could to do that. We're seeing some of the same stuff right now, obviously, with Biden and many people on the right saying that Biden needs to be a one-term president. We can talk another time about how old our politicians are, whether they're in Congress or the White House. That's not the purpose of this video today, but what I just wanted to remind people was that there are things that you can say to get elected, but when anyone says they alone can fix it, they're lying at worst, and at best they're woefully unprepared for the intricacies that hit anybody first coming to the White House. Modern populism, division, the unknowns which hit every country every year around the world, with less and less of a desire for compromise or even change things better for their people. A lot of people in the progressive movement I've seen, whether it's people like David Pakman, one of my favorite people to watch, or Sam Cedar with the Majority Report. A lot of these people are trying to, it's difficult to say think critically sometimes, because if you're on the right, you view that a certain way. If you're on the left, you view that a certain way. Know where your perspectives are coming from, I guess, is my biggest point. Thinking critically, checking out sources, seeing if something doesn't pass the sniff test is just invaluable to the politics that we live in right now. Should we be done with politics? I don't know. I keep saying that I'm going to, and then I don't. But if we are finding more and more that the politicians who not only mean well, but seem to be particular about how they're going to address things in the White House or in Congress, the people who seem honest, there's no appetite for that. They're unpopular, and we live in a world of populism right now, in a country of populism. And if they can't get elected, they can't change anything anyway. So what's the alternative for them to get elected and do what they need to stay in power, to have special interests? And that's disheartening for a lot of us who are positive generally about politics and see what can be done if democracy is to stand. If we have a Supreme Court that says there's absolute immunity for almost everything, whether it's a private act or an act within the office, within the capacity of the president to do, then I agree with Ketanji Brown Jackson about it's not a matter of if the president is thwarted from doing certain things. That's what his lawyers were trying to argue in the Supreme Court, saying, well, this will have a chilling effect. There should be a chilling effect, was the point of Justice Jackson. There should be a chilling effect for anyone who wants to either break the law or misuse the avenues that we have set up. Right now, it's just about who pretends the best that they're actually going to do something. But we need to focus more on what can actually be done and put people with ethics back in office, not people who literally just say anything to get elected. So that's it for now. These are just some reasons maybe why we should be out of politics. But the importance, that dichotomy is tough. Keep watching. Hope you guys come back. This is Ample Thought. Really appreciate your time. and I'll try and see you again next time. Have a good day.